Hi, my name's Tony and this is my partner Stephen. We started our fan life journey back in 2023 with our dog Rosie in a touring caravan. We soon got the travelling bug but grew tired of having to stay in the same place all the time and the increasing cost of campsites. So we packed up our bags and flew to England to visit a company called Base Van, where we bought this Ex Ambulance to turn into a full-time home on wheels. Over the past 6 months we've been renovating the van, which has come with its own sets of ups and downs. But with a deadline looming over us and trying to get the van ready for a massive trip around Ireland's wild Atlantic way, we had to pull up our socks and really get into gear. In the past few videos, we've been focusing on the back of the van and getting the kitchen area ready, which has had its own setback when we broke our gas oven. Despite this, we've managed to press on and finally see the wood through the trees. Last week we managed to give our safety bumpers a reupholstery upgrade and plumbed in our kitchen sink. This week we installed the bumpers and worked towards tidying up the cab area of the van. Honestly, we still don't know if we're going to actually make this trip, but if you want to find out how that goes, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow along with us on the journey.
So, in our last week's video, you will have seen that we finished off with fabricing over the bumpers. So we're going to actually start with putting the big bumper with the lights up above here. So we're just getting ready for that, and unfortunately to get ready for that we have to clear out the storage shelves because they bolt right through. So this is the bad part about doing the van build and sort of trying to be able to use it at the same time. Everything just gets thrown everywhere out of the way, and then you're just constantly moving stuff around and around. So we're just constantly in this messy state and then just keep moving things in our way and in our way and then in our way. You've seen we also put new lights into the bumper, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just making new electrical connections for them, but I need to figure out which one of these wires is live and which one is neutral. So the easiest way to find out which one is positive and negative is if you have a multimeter. What you can do is, as you can see here, I have it set to volts DC. We've turned the lights on, and what I'm going to do is whenever I put the prong, red prong in, black prong in, so as you can see it says 12.7 volts. If I turn them around, you'll see that it'll say minus 12 volts. So that means we have the polarity the wrong way around. So plus 12 volts means that the red one is in the live and the black one is in the neutral. Another way you can do to test that is, say you have one of the old lights. What you can do is you can get a wee bit of wire and hold it to an earthing point, so anywhere there's a negative in the van or even just a bit of bare metal, and then you can plug the other wire into each one of the wires for what you're looking to try and find alive, and whenever it actually lights up the light, that'll tell you which one is the positive wire. So in order to connect wires together, there's different ways you can do it. You can solder them together, which is probably the best way of doing it, but if you're not happy with using a soldering iron, you can use what's called crimp connectors. This is probably the easiest way of doing it. So you just get these wee connectors. You can get a crimping tool sometimes if you have wire strippers. You see the wee crimping ends on them, and they'll be color coded as well to the sides of the crimp. These are just a ratcheting one for a better sort of connection. And my soldering iron has broke, so I'm just using these. As well as that, if you ever need to redo them, you can easily just pull them off if you really pull hard, instead of having to cut the wire again. So you'll have seen that we have 3 lights in the bumper but only 2 connections. Now the reason for that is originally the ambulance had 3 sets of lights all along here. One of them we're actually going to use for the bathroom. So we're going to wire in 2 lights for above the kitchen area and 1 light for this side of the bed area. So we're going to wire the 2 into this one, so that'll be spotlight number 2, and then one of the lights is just going to be wired into spotlight number 3.
So the night's getting a lot darker, but there's no stopping because we have a deadline to make and we want to get this done.
As we're working in the van, we've just realised, don't know how I haven't realised this before, but there's a bit of a draft coming through the extractor fan. So I'm thinking a bit of a job for Tony here would be to make another one of these temporary covers just to keep the draft out while we're working. We'll need it for the trip as well. Maybe even one for here too. There's a wee bit of coldness from here.
So you seen us earlier in the video, or you seen Stephen earlier in the video cutting away the bulkhead behind me here, and our goal before we get on the road is to really tidy this area up so it's easily accessible if we need to escape, or touch wood we don't, but if we run into any bother we need a straight exit into the cab area to get away.
Alongside tidying up the top end of the bulkhead, we also need to avoid tripping over any of the wires at the bottom of the bulkhead, and also box in the diesel heater. So this is going to do three things. One of the things is going to hide all the wires and messes under there right now. The second thing is it will make it a lot tidier and again take away that trip hazard. And the last thing it'll do is it'll allow us a wee bit of extra storage. I'm thinking of using it for sort of shoe storage. And again, boxing in the diesel heater so that we maybe don't hear it just as loudly, and we can also port the heat out, sort of directing it towards where we want it to go. So in order to tidy up around the bulkhead, we're using thin 5mm ply, and then this is a wee bit of trim piece, and we're just going to glue them together like so. And the reason being is we want this to be an access panel because there are wires and such in here that we're going to need access to in the soon future. We need to be able to run the wires from top of the van down in, and all the access is in here. So this wee piece, glue these two pieces together, trim piece and panel, and then we can screw it up in and it'll tidy it up. So I want to talk a little bit about the value of trim pieces. So if you're like myself, who is not really a carpenter or joiner, trim pieces can hide a multitude of sins. So as you'll have seen here, where we've done around the window, this cut just isn't perfectly straight. So what we're going to do is we're going to make up a wee bit of framing. And then not only does it sort of hide a multitude of sins, it actually also then makes it a feature because it makes it actually more stand out. So your big mistakes whenever you're doing things like this can actually turn out to be the best looking part of your build. So we're going to take a wee short break from the van build and go and do a quick training session. Reason being is we're still on the health kick, we're still trying to get fitter for when we do get the van finished and we do the van life full time. So on to the gym. So now that I'm back from that absolutely horrendous experience, we're going to get back stuck into the step. You know, some people say the more and more you go to the gym, the easier it gets, but I'm not finding that bit yet, so hopefully in the future it will get easier.
So what are you doing down there?
So I pre-measured a rough frame for this, but I've forgotten what half these measurements are for, which is great. Probably if I had labelled them a wee bit better then I would have been alright. So yeah, now I need to figure out what I've already figured out, if that makes sense. That would have to be for here and here. 118, so what's that? That's 118 is 11 centimetres. 11, almost 12 centimetres that would be. So that would be that. Yes, because that's plus the height of the batten. So that's right. So using the measurements that we took earlier, I'm now going to cut the battens to size.
So before we do any structural work, on the fan, we always like to do a little test fit first, just to make sure things are going to go smooth whenever we actually build it and put it in place.
So we've initially tested it to see is it going to fit and sort of look okay, and yes it does, looks like it's going to fit and look okay for the initial framework, but I want to add a few extra supports just because this is something we're going to be walking over all the time, so it does need to be pretty strong.
So now that we've tested everything and it looks well, it's time to build the step. So at this point you might be watching and thinking, gosh, you guys are adding a lot of wood to your camper van and that's going to impact on weight. Well yes, in any ordinary build, but you have to remember and keep in mind this van is rated up to nearly 4.5 tonne. This will give us a little bit more weight to add into the camper van and also not impact on our road usage. So it's always something to bear in mind whenever you're looking for a van that's going to suit your needs. And also worth keeping in mind that if you don't have the special license for it, you may need to get one if you want that bigger weight.
So we have a little bit of leftover 18mm ply that was used over from making our carcasses for our kitchen, and it's almost the right width for what we need for the step, so we're going to try and use it to make the front covers of the step. We're going to work on the side piece closest to the door first, and that measurement is about 40.5. So we're going to try and cut it down the length, and then we're going to try and shave the wee bit off the top that we need in order to make it go from the bottom just to the top, nice and flush.
Mm-hmm.
Looking good.
Just take the top of it.
Flush to that, yeah.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rough measurement for the vent for the diesel heater. So we know what we want it to sort of be about here. So what I've done is I've put the piece of wood that's going to go in front, and I've just drawn a wee circle around this on the inside. But because I don't have a hole saw, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill lots of wee holes and then see if I can cut the circle out. So now that I have the faceplate on for the step, I'm going to run the ducting for the heat out going this way. There is another T-piece as well. I'm going to temporarily put it into the bathroom. And then the ducting on the left is going to be for the air intake. I'm going to put it closest to the door because that should be where the coldest air is.
So we've got the first part of our step into the cab in, and you might have noticed that there's wires running along the back. So to combat that, we're going to put a hinge in and put a little flap in to give us access.
So as we're continuing on with the build, I just want to mention, as we did in the last video, how grateful we are for everybody watching the videos. So we've had a massive goal with the channel, and we want to keep growing the channel and bringing you better content. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to continue along with the journey. And if you have any suggestions even to help us out, any comments you'd want to put in, just put them in, maybe for making the content better, or even any suggestions to help us out with the van build, it'd be great.
I also want to take a minute to say a massive thank you to both Jane and Phil who donated to us on our Buy Me a Coffee page.